Speaking of which, let's cover that real quick because I got a Slate article. Hey, just being honest, if our party works with this freak show, Jew-hating, terrorist-loving piece of shit, I will literally quit my job because the Democratic Party would be too lost to bother with. Funniest thing was all the glazing. Chat, I think you're so used to me getting constantly dookied on that whenever someone writes an article that's like somewhat positive, you're like, this is Glaze. Thanks for reading. That's my book, Lamau. Yeah, Nathan, that was fantastically written. Chat, what do you expect? Do you expect Nathan to be like, this guy fucking sucks? I've been watching him for years, but I think he sucks.
Jeez, Hasan is getting glazed on a level I have never seen before. Rumor on the street is this guy clearly has friends in high places that are looking out for him. The guy just had not one, but two puff piece articles published about him, not even hours apart from each other. And Hasan is insisting this is a coincidence and it wasn't coordinated at all, while also proclaiming that more are coming. But from my perspective, it clearly looks like Hasan's buddies are trying to clean up his image after all those articles were written about him and those advertisers dropped out. This puff piece is 5,500 words, and it takes about an hour to read the whole thing. And get this, it has essentially zero mention of all of the horrible things Hasan has said. And any mention of any of it is just to write it off like it isn't a big deal. It's basically an hour of pure glaze, trying to convince the Democrats that Hasan is their guy and they shouldn't be afraid of him. Now watch as Hasan tries to convince his audience and the public that there is no conspiracy from these journalists to try and make him look good.
I'll wait, as I know you'll cover it, but how did you feel about the Slate article for your Hasan diehards? What do you mean? What does that even mean? I gave, that was a profile done with my knowledge. So yeah, I liked it. I mean, there's a couple parts of it that I didn't fully agree with. What is this? Oh, Polygon. Twitch's Hasan Piker wants fellow others to know having fun isn't bourgeois decadence. A new book excerpt from Stream Big dives deep into Twitch's top stars. Nathan Grayson's new book is coming out, and there's an excerpt of me in the book. And I think that's why he wrote for Polygon on this article. But we'll get to that as well. That's not one puff piece, but now two puff pieces in a row. Puff pieces in a row. Why are your detractors acting like you paid for puff pieces now in terms of your Slate article? Because they're fucking insane and think the world revolves around me. And even funnier, they think the world revolves around them. Okay? They simply cannot comprehend that, like, after the election, a bunch of journalists wanted to write about one of the largest figures on the independent media side on the left. And only now are those pieces coming out. Only now are those profiles coming out because real journalism takes time.
Because they are fucking insane. I mean, come on. Is it really that big of a leap of faith to think there's something fishy going on when not one, but two glazing articles come out about you just hours apart from each other? It really just isn't that big of a leap, dude. Especially when you say one of these articles are stemming from a book that has been in the works for 2 years. So let me get this straight. We have a 1 in 730 chance that these articles would have been published on the same day, yet alone a few hours from each other. I think Hasan is just a bit irritated that people aren't eating up this obvious glaze. It seems like even a lot of lefties can see the obvious, that these journalists are trying to clean up Hasan's image and push him into the Democratic Party mainstream.
Speaking of which, let's cover that real quick because I got a Slate article. And also Nathan Grayson wrote an article on, Nathan Grayson's been writing a book. What is this? I'm against Piker working with the Democrats, but I'm strongly for Brianna Wu quitting whatever she does. Dilemma. Hey, just being honest, if our party works with this freak show, hating, terrorist-loving piece of shit, I will literally quit my job because the Democratic Party would be too lost to bother with. Yo, I'm literally going to work with the Democrats just so that Brianna quits her job. I think I'm just going to work with the Democrats for like one season. You know what I mean? I'll put my hat in the ring for one season. Here's the Slate article. Who's afraid of Hasan Piker? He's hot. He's dangerous. Young men actually listen to him. Is he what Democrats are looking for? This was written by Luke Winkie. Okay. Is January 19th, the last day of Joe Biden's presidency, and in the eve of a new one, no one can quite fathom yet. I think this photo was good, by the way. People said they didn't like it, but I think this is a good photo. And Hasan Piker is preparing for the end of the world, as he almost always is. Piker's live on Twitch. He's at his home in West Hollywood, and a secondary bedroom is turned into a broadcasting booth. The boiling overhead studio lights illuminate the scene. Piker's in the center of the frame, his peripheral vision swallowed up by 3 chunky computer monitors. Behind him is a clutter of socialist potpourri, Cuban and Gazan flags draped over a minifridge packed with Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar, a cardboard cutout of Bernie Sanders blocking sunlight from a window, and a plastic purple skull capped with a furry Soviet Ushanka. There's not much left to be said at the dawn of the second Trump administration. Wait, he's outing me from the jump as someone who is not simply a liberal. That's weird. It seems like there's a mention of socialist potpourri.
You couldn't make Hasan happy even if you glazed him with 5,000 words of your 5,500 word article. And while I might not be a Brianna Wu fan or even really know that much about her, I really don't blame her for not wanting the Democrats to work with Hasan. The guy is a powder keg for the party. Just look at how he got kicked out of the DNC, because he thought the whole place should revolve around him. But honestly, I think him cozying up to the party is just purely for protection. I mean, come on, when you really think about it, this all just comes off like he's trying to combat the opposition he has created for himself. He knows he needs these journalists to protect his image, so he could keep on shoveling the propaganda into the mouth of the youth on Twitch. The guy is just using the mainstream media to combat the people spreading how radical he truly is.
Other channels on Twitch, the Amazon-owned live streaming platform, tend to focus on Fortnite stunts and other video game feeds. Piker doesn't play too many online video games live. Instead, for the most part, his broadcast consists of him clicking around the huge number of tabs compressed at the top of his Chrome browser. Piker ping-pongs between them, offering mordant insights on irritating New York Times columns, Elon Musk tweets, and Jesse Waters' meltdowns. His style is open-ended and rich with digressions. Nothing canned, no artifice. And regardless of what he's currently roasting, Piker is assertively unscripted. Like many of us, he reacts to the bamboozling deterioration of the 21st century life in real time. Unlike most of us, he does it in front of an enormous audience every day with a chronic exasperation perfectly tuned for the moment. It's been a winning formula, and Piker seems to conquer a new benchmark every year. In 2020, back when he was still getting his feet wet on the platform, his stream peaked at 230,000 concurrent live viewers while he covered Biden's slim victory over Donald Trump, making him the 6th most watched source of election coverage across YouTube and Twitch. 4 years later, Piker broke that record when 313,000 people watched him analyze the defeat of Kamala Harris. In a digital news apparatus that is sharply breaking right, Piker is one of the only leftists standing. Shortly after the presidential election, when it became clear that the party was hemorrhaging young men to the right, the commentariat bemoaned the absence of a liberal Joe Rogan, as in an alternative media figure who commands significant clout within a loose contingency of disengaged males and happens to be aligned with the overarching left-of-center project. Who could be a bulwark against an increasingly radicalized Aiden Ross, Dave Portnoy, and Theo Vaughn? Well, here he is. Here is Piker. He stands 6'4" with a sharp jawline and ripples of coiled muscle. He's conservative in bodybuilding, gaming, anime, professional wrestling, and every other interest that tends to make up the media diet of boys of a certain age. His bulge and Calvin's thirst traps have started libidinal riots online. According to an unofficial census conducted by his community in 2024, his viewership is about 2/3 men. Slim majorities are white and hold a college degree, while 30% reported they hadn't yet lost their virginity. In the past year, oh, god damn. Yo, y'all are, dude, he outed y'all. He outed y'all as a bunch of virgins, dude. The Democrats, it seems, have found their man. Just one little problem with that. Piker didn't endorse Biden at the dawn of the 2024 cycle. Then he didn't endorse Kamala Harris either. Resting on the sheathed samurai sword near the rear of his streaming setup is a MAGA hat. Piker wears it on rare occasions he approves of a Trump decision. On one recent occasion, he slipped it on when the incoming administration had a hand in brokering a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. Piker is pro-Palestinian liberation, pro-immigrant, pro-trans, pro-choice, and unapologetically himself. Some of this is broad accusations of anti-Semitism and more, all of which he strongly denies, but has lately found Piker in an uncharacteristically defensive posture. His take no prisoners approach makes everyone, but especially Democrats, uneasy. For a while, a staffer for Ocasio-Cortez suggested the Congresswoman would give me a comment for this article on Piker and the Democrats' future. I followed up repeatedly, only to be told that someone more senior would have to sign off. The comment never came. Also, speaking of which, AOC literally directly messaged me after this article came out, being like, oops, we forgot to respond. But that's, yeah. This morning.
Wait. So you're telling me that AOC messaged you on the same morning 2 puff pieces were released about you? Sheesh, dude, you really aren't going to beat the allegations of a planned conspiracy to clean up your image. It seems like everyone mysteriously knew that this was Hasan's glazing day. But let's be real for a second. Why should the Democrats work with him? The guy will just shoot them in the foot when they don't end up promoting full-blown communism. These people are clearly desperate for someone in the Democratic Party to be able to connect with the youth, if they're really looking at Hasan Piker to be that guy.
I think that's something a lot of political commentators lack in general, Piker said. They're not real human beings. What I do requires a tremendous amount of charitability from the audience. I speak in opposition on a lot of issues that people take for granted, issues that people have been socially conditioned to believe are the norm, and that the alternative is scary and dangerous. So people have to be open to hearing me out. Some chime in to say they fell in love with his videos from the Young Turks, or via a shout out from AOC, but scores more accredit Piker for either their radicalization or de-radicalization. Let me explain something to you. This is why a lot of what like liberals do, this is why what a lot of like other liberal content creators do in terms of like disparaging what I have to say is somewhat damaging. And if they do truly care about like de-radicalizing or pulling people away from right-wing sentiment, the endless attacks against someone like myself unironically actually hurts their own personal agenda. Okay? That's because they don't want to like address any of the things that I talk about. They just hit me on my persona or personality, and they constantly say I'm like a bad person over and over and over and over and over again, and constantly seek out like clips that they can cut to be like, this is a bad person, you shouldn't follow this person, and they make up lies. Now that, of course, 100% ruins the charitability that random people might have towards me if their first introduction to who I am is completely fucking well poisoned by some dude who unironically hates me and wants everyone that is paying attention to him to also hate me as well.
Oh, please. You guys should really stop attacking me if you want me to de-radicalize people from the right. Just listen to this article that is totally throat-goating me harder than the girlfriend that I hide from the public. This article that totally isn't just glazing me is saying I'm drawing people away from right-wing radicalization. Hasan, dude, I hate to break it to you, but you are the one radicalizing people. And it's kind of cringe that you are using a puff piece on yourself to try and say liberals are wrong when they criticize you. The article was literally crafted to make you look good by one of your friends. And come on, dude, one could easily just say the opposite about you and show how you are leading your audience down a really dangerous path. The way this guy sees himself as like the arbiter of truth is just so laughable.
They keep framing your person, not your ideals, and there ain't even nothing personal to disparage. You're almost squeaky clean in that regard, unless most who point at you. Yes, but it doesn't matter, because even if I'm not the one who is creating the drama, okay? Even if I'm not the one who's personally creating the drama, even if I try to be as like drama averse as possible, for people outside of my sphere of influence or whatever, they see that as drama. They see that as a guy who's constantly finding himself in the throes of drama. Do you see what I'm saying? They're like, oh, that guy's always in fucking some shit. And it sucks, but there's literally nothing I can do about it. So I've decided a couple of years ago that it doesn't necessarily matter. Just I will keep saying the things I've been saying over and over again. And that eventually I think people, if they tune in, even if it's for hate watching purposes, if people tune in, they'll realize that like a lot of the stuff that people are saying are just completely ridiculous, completely made up. You know, when people say I'm a controversial individual, are there controversial things I've said? Absolutely. I'll take ownership of that any day of the week. But in most circumstances, they're not talking about like America deserved or whatever. They're talking about made up controversies that get a lot of play on Twitter or Reddit, mostly brigaded.
Yeah, Hasan isn't constantly getting himself into controversy, guys. This is just haters clip chimping him out of context. It's not like this guy puts his foot in his mouth on a nightly basis. Hasan can sit here and act like he's just totally against drama. But the guy has just been a part of far too many controversies for that to be the case. Hasan isn't against drama. He just doesn't like when the drama is making him look bad. Who does this guy think he's fooling? Does he not realize there is literally hours upon hours of VODs that just blow this statement completely out of the water? You don't have to clip chimp him to make him look bad. You don't have to take him out of context to make him look bad. This guy makes himself look bad all the time, all on his own.
Uyghur, for one, has some doubts. I know exactly how this movie is going to end, he said. There's 0% chance Hasan is going to become a corporatist, and there's 0% chance the Democratic Party, as is currently composed, will not be corporatist. So they will have an inconvenient marriage for a while, and then they'll fall out of love with him. At the end of the day, he's not going to give the message that they want. I mean, he's right. I will not change. But he, too, had his doubts about how deep his influence can get in the current environment. I'm not changing. That's the thing. I'm not above admitting when politicians do good things, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be a Democratic Party operative. That's just not how I operate. Last year, Piker briefly considered quitting his streaming career. He thought about going back to school, earning a PhD, and never again worrying about the scrutiny on his life or his politics. Piker began to feel this way after October 7, an event that forced him on and every other pundit to witness every day the escalating horrors of the war between Israel and Hamas. Piker was a steadfast pro-Palestinian voice, and during the war, he demonstrated sympathy for some of Israel's assailants. This often put him in reedy territory. In one memorable instance, Piker interviewed an alleged Houthi sympathizer who went viral on TikTok for his uncanny resemblance to Timothée Chalamet. Piker asked him if he watched the long-running anime One Piece. The teenager nodded enthusiastically. The incident helped catapult Piker to the forefront of the American anti-Zionist movement. I don't think this was what catapulted me to the forefront of the the American anti-Zionist movement. It actually had no motion until everybody decided to yell about it like a couple months ago to try to get me banned to do because of that interview. Nobody gave a shit about it at all. Anyway, in a story published after the letter, outlined a lengthy taxonomy on Piker's takes on Gaza. Among them, that sexual violence that occurred on October 7 didn't change the dynamic of the conflict for him, that Hamas was a lesser evil than the Israeli military. Meanwhile, Jonathan Greenblatt, head of the Anti-Defamation League, took to X and claimed that Piker's toxic screeds against the Jewish state normalized bigotry and launder terror, imploring media companies to deplatform him. The controversy has started to affect Twitch's bottom line. As Bloomberg reported in December, a smattering of online forums, all associated with the Zionist streamer and infamous internet troll Stephen Destiny Bunnell, who has gotten into hot water for his usage of various slurs, have canvassed companies to suspend their ad campaigns with Twitch. So far, JP Morgan, AT&T, and Duncan have acquiesced. So, for the first time in his career, Piker is under siege. Well, that's not the first time in my career. He maintains that the quotes circulated by Fox News are cherry-picked from the protracted monologues of his stream. As someone who has sampled the entirety of these broadcasts, which are all far too self-reflexive to ever be reduced to a single talking point, I think that assertion is largely true. Still, for as much as he told me it's not great to be roped in with racists and Nazis by the Israel lobby, Piker does find himself wondering if all this fracas might signal a greater shift.
Holy glazing. This so-called journalist is actually embarrassing himself. It's like he's just trying to go through a list of Hasan's controversies and just portraying them in a way that makes Hasan look good. every single time. It's pretty clear what the journalist that's writing this wants the reader to think after they're done reading. It's all so obvious where this article actually came from. It just conveniently writes off the controversies that it mentions and totally avoids the ones it can't write off. Not to mention that it tries to attach all these controversies to Destiny. This article is just repeating all of the talking points Hasan uses to write off his critics. Like, I literally wouldn't be surprised if someone told me that Hasan wrote this article himself. I guess that's what happens when a fan writes a puff piece about you masquerading as a legitimate article. You only really have to listen to this part to see that this article should not be taken seriously. It just comes off as a PR crisis team trying to clean up Mr. Hasan's image.
I wonder how people that read this article contend with the takeaway where they try to present me as a radical terrorism supporter or someone who is not actively trying to do right by marginalized communities. It's got to suck real bad. I guess nobody really reads, so they don't really care. But it's got to suck really bad if your entire project is to be like, Hasan is a bad guy, please don't listen to him. I am the actual true liberator of the marginalized populations. If you read an article like this, you probably arrive at the exact opposite conclusion. So how does that work? Well, I'll tell you how that works. They don't fucking read the article, and I'm sure they'll say this was a puff piece that I paid for or something, which is insane. And once again, demonstrates an inability to understand how media works, but it doesn't really matter. Anyway.
Yes. If you read this article, that's completely glazing me and writing off every single controversy I've ever been a part of, you might come to a different conclusion than the people that are criticizing me with clips of things I actually said. What you should look at instead is this article written by my lefty journalist friend that is a regular in my chat. Yeah, that guy is clearly going to give you an objective opinion. Hasan sits here saying, how do these guys criticizing me square such glaze in their head? See, Hasan is just showing his hand. This is why he did those interviews with these journalists. It was all to create puff pieces to run defense against the people criticizing him. And what's ironic is this is exactly what the rich elite does. Literally, every time they get into some shit, think about it. Every time one of these elite f***s get into some shit, they get their buddies to write articles in their defense for positive PR. Hasan will roast Elon Musk for using Twitter for positive PR for himself. He will roast Jeff Bezos for using the Washington Post for PR for himself. But when Hasan gets his journalist buddies to write puff pieces on him in the light of controversy, he somehow doesn't see the irony.
There was also a Polygon article by Nathan Grayson, who's writing a book and wanted me to be a part of the book as well. This tweet is a minefield, Jesus. Gave you a 5,000 profile of Hasan Piker, who's the only lefty media personality with any cultural salience among young men. Will Piker be marbled in the Democratic messaging machine for that to happen? One of the two entities, Piker or the party, would need to change. Yeah. It's literally immediate brigading. Why label him a liberal? He hates liberals. What is this account that I muted? Glug, glug, glug. Yeah. When extremely online weirdos, I didn't realize you love anti-Semitism and terrorism. Are you going to call babies valid military targets too? He really hates America. And even the young Turks avoid him. Really embarrassing puff piece. This is what I mean. All of the weird, sex pestiny brigades come full throttle. Every time a single article is written about Hasan and Destiny, Ethan's fans swarm the replies after being told to brigade. Just some of the most pathetic behavior you're ever going to see. Yeah, Nathan got popped too, unfortunately, because the timing of his article. To be honest, when I saw the Slate ran a profile on Hasan today, I too was like, what are the odds? And then this might hurt my book sales. This is the opposite of the kind of conspiracy Ethan seems to be suggesting. My book has been in the works for 5 years. It was completed last year. The release date today has been locked in since last year. All publicly available info. Jaeger08 Larson, thank you for the 20 gifted subs. Polygon ran that excerpt today as a rant of a promotional rollout, which I've been planning for months. And of course, I talked to Hasan, in addition to at least 100 other streamers, for the hook because he's one of the most notable people on the platform. Yeah.
Ah, yes, that's a little weird. Hasan sits here saying people instantly brigaded the journalist that wrote this puff piece on him on Twitter. You know, I wonder if he would think the same thing if it was his audience roasting a journalist for something he disagrees with. Because that actually just happens all the time. And then you have this journalist that wrote this article trying to run defense against people thinking that the double release of this article is fishy. And his response just makes things more fishy, to be honest. Am I really supposed to believe that your puff piece just magically lined up on the same day as this guy's promotion for his book? A book that's been in the works for supposedly years? Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to hit X to doubt on that one, buddy. The odds of that happening are just so low, and trying to refute that just makes it look more suspicious. Anyway, now is the time for the big reveal, where Hasan exposes exactly why he agreed to do these puff pieces in the first place.
Obligatory Hasan. Glaze. Okay. Yeah, buy the book. Glaze like a Christmas ham, but you've earned it. What do you expect? You want Nathan to... Thanks for reading. That's my book, Lamau. Hell yeah, Nathan. That was fantastically written. Chat, what do you expect? Do you expect Nathan to be like, this guy sucks? He sucks. He sucks ass. He's a bad guy. I've been watching him for years, but I think he sucks. You'll be like, everything's Glaze, man. There's there's more articles too. There's more media stuff to come. I suspect down the line. I mean, I did the funniest thing about the Slate article is that like it came out a lot faster than all these other articles that have been in motion for like months since immediately after the election. It takes a long time for major publications to make stuff, you know? Funniest thing was all the glazing. Chat, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna keep it $1.50. Maybe I'm engaging in a little bit of self-glazing. But like, I think these guys are just, I think you're so used to me getting constantly dookied on by incredibly hostile and malicious people that want to portray me in a negative light, that whenever someone writes an article that's like somewhat positive, you're like, this is Glaze. To be fair, I also with the except, like, this is what keeps me. It's just so funny to see the way you're regarded by real political figures and compared out to the delusional fantasies of your obsessed haters, and they're just crashing out constantly. I know, but I look. I will always repeat the same thing over and over again. I wish everybody well. You know, I have no enemies. I just want people to be happy, because I do truly believe that if you achieve happiness, if you achieve fulfillment, if you are truly fulfilled, okay, with what you're doing, you will not be crashing out this much. But also, articles like this, including podcast appearances that I make, are good because you can show your friends in a very easy to consume format, like kind of what I'm about. You know what I mean? That's the way I see it. Like, because there's just so much like nonsense on clips and shit on Twitter. It's a very easy way to cut through that noise to be like, yeah, all of that's bullshit. Here, read this article instead.
Isn't it just a little bit funny that his audience is literally eating this up? Like the person that wrote it isn't Hasan's buddy? I mean, come on. Did you see what that guy wrote? Here's the quote. It's so funny to see how you're regarded by real political figures and not the delusional fantasies of your obsessed haters. Like, buddy, who do you think we should listen to? A guy that has been a regular in Hasan's chat for years and clearly wants to make his streamer look good, or People criticizing him online, talking about how he's a dangerous radical, and using clips proving just that? Nah, I'll just use this glazing article my buddy wrote. You know, I'm sure listening to your buddy isn't gonna give all these people a totally false impression of who you are as a person. What do you guys think? Are these his buddies just trying to help him out? Did he hire a positive PR team to clean up his image? Or are these articles releasing on the same day just a massive coincidence, and we should just lead Hasan into the political mainstream? Let me know in the comments below. All right, guys, if you liked the video, hit that like button and subscribe. And if you want to see more content like this, YouTube thinks you're gonna like this video right here.